This chapter delineates the responsibilities at each command level for implementing the SOH program. So safety and occupational health program is an inherent responsibility of the command, and therefore implementation, direction, and control of the program will be through the chain of command, with line managers and supervisors being primarily responsible for ensuring safe and healthful operations and working conditions. We've talked about some of this already, right? CO is responsible to have the program and be a good role model, right? Have the damn program. Then you have responsibilities of the safety officer, the medical department representative, your DIVOs, right? That different people have different responsibilities. Within the Navy, the Chief of Naval Operations has overall responsibility for the SOH. This is a test question for the Chief's exam. I don't know if it would be on yours. That is definitely a Chief's exam question, though. CNO, overall responsible for SOH program. I would know it, because you're all going to be taking your Chief's exam in a couple years. Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Energy, Installations, and Environment. So ASN, EI&E is saying that easier. Is designated agency safety and occupational health official, or DASHO, from the Department of the Navy, which includes the Navy and Marine Corps.
Can I hit on a bullet point real quick? Can you go on and slide back? Because this is my starting point of making everything make sense to you when it comes to CNO, SecNav, Chief of BUMED, right? Safety and occupational health, right? That is not a Navy medicine or medicine specific program, right?
Right.
So your Chief of BUMED is not going to be the overall responsible, right? Now SecNav, Secretary of Navy, is dealing with strategic operations, more of that kind of stuff, right? So do you think they're going to be in charge of the safety and occupational health manual? No, they have a bigger authority, right? Your Chief of Naval Operations is literally anything that happens with operations of the Navy, okay? Which is going to be safety and occupational health as a whole for all different levels there, right? I'm hoping you're picking up on that nugget, because I'm going to go into more detail about it later, but that is how you're going to start delineating between responsibilities on overall responsibilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Safety. Advises the ASN, EI&E, the Undersecretary and the Secretary of the Navy, or SecNav, right, on all safety matters affecting the sailors, Marines, and civilian employees in the DON. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Safety, is who advises all these people on our safety. The CNO will issue appropriate directives and policies for the safety and health program, establish, manage, and maintain appropriate planning, programming, staffing, and budgeting for program implementation, issue criteria for records maintenance, and provide to the SecNav all reports that they require, conduct appropriate research and development to preclude occupational exposures degrading an employee's health status or work performance. Within the system safety process, ensure material solution, SOH requirements, and health standards are identified and reported appropriately, and adopt, develop, and issue standards as necessary. Coordinate Navy review and input for new and revised SOH regulations and national consensus standards. I would say the last bullet on this would be the most likely question that they ask you. Who adopts, develops, and issues the standards as necessary for updating the SOH, and that's going to be your CNO.
You guys need to be able to sift through this and ask yourselves, right, because you're going to go all these responsibilities, which one would ideally be asked as a test question, right? The Navy, when they're writing these tests, or the corpsmen, the chiefs that go down and write these tests, they're going to care that you know who issues, who's responsible, who has overall responsibility, right? So I'm not going to worry about who conducts appropriate research and development to preclude occupational exposures degrading. Like, that's too in the weeds, right? Know that when you're studying, so you can kind of decipher and take out the unnecessary information when you're studying through it.
So they're going to do all kinds of other stuff too, like ensure commands, units, and activities comply with applicable Navy regulations, federal statutes, etc. They develop, with a whole lot of help, an annual report to the SecNav and the Secretary of Labor. None of that stuff. Like, I can't imagine that they're going to ask you a question very pinpointed into Expeditionary Warfare Division responsibility for parachute, right? Like that seems a little narrow. It's a little narrow. And here's some more, right? Like he has so many responsibilities for this program in ensuring that people are assigned as overall for like these big programs, right? Like the nuclear program. So headquarters commands. All headquarters commands are responsible for the implementation of a safety management system. A safety management system contains a uniform set of requirements that ensure compliance with higher headquarters guidance for SMS. That has been a test question. I can't remember if it was on a first class test or one of my chief's tests, but that was a question. That the SMS contains a uniform set of requirements that ensure compliance with higher headquarter guidance. It's an integral part of an organization, its culture, and the way the organization functions. Headquarters commands will designate a qualified SOH professional, or like a SME, right, who will have sufficient authority and responsibility to effectively represent and support the headquarters commander in the management and administration of the headquarters command safety program. The SOH professional will have a direct reporting line to the commander. Again, that's really in the weeds. The designated command SOH professional will establish, coordinate, direct, and evaluate the effectiveness of the safety policies, plans, programs, and procedures. That would be a good test question. Who is the person that establishes, coordinates, directs, and evaluates the effectiveness of the SOH? All the policies, plans, programs, and procedures that are implemented based off of the SOH at a command.
Designated SOH professional.
Your SME that's designated. And who are they designated by?
Yeah.
This person. Headquarters commands. The CO. So they also provide technical advice and guidance. That's a possible test question. They help develop new standards. If they're seeing something that doesn't really work, they'll help develop a new way of doing things and send it up for changes. And then they go to meetings, a lot of them. They utilize and disseminate the SOH management and MP performance metrics. So they're data gatherers, right? And they gather all this data and they put it all into pretty little spreadsheets, and then they go to meetings. And they talk about how effective their stuff is. They review illness and injury reports from systems like WES and any OSHA reports that have been submitted, and any eye hazard reports that have been put up, right? And then they come up with a plan to improve the program. They help get the funding that we need to make sure that we have the placards that are required, the tape that's required for the floor, right? Things like that. And then they hold the subordinate commands accountable. Specified support areas. The commanders of the systems command, SysCom, the Chief of BUMED, Commander, NAV, SAFECOM, and the Commander, Naval Education and Training Command, NETC, in coordination with or at the direction of the respective OPNAV major program sponsor, will develop specific procedures and provide instructions for the specified support areas assigned in this paragraph in Appendix B2 Alpha. Chief of BUMED will provide support to the CMC in all aspects of OH, which include OM, which is medical treatment and surveillance, OA and IH, and environmental health, including field support. Coordinate occupational health actions, OH is occupational health, actions with cognizant headquarters commands as required. They assist NETC and other headquarters commands in coordinating OH training in response to needs and requirements developed. They perform appropriate research, development, test, and evaluation in occupational health to determine criteria necessary for establishing personnel exposure limits in naval operational environments. I'm talking about limits of exposure, like how much JP5 is too much, right? How much can we expose you to before you instantaneously get cancer. Maintain an exposure registry for occupational exposures to chemical substances and other hazardous physical or biological stressors. For all y'all like calcite wipes. That's why they say you have to wear gloves. Chief UMed will also act as a clearinghouse for reviewing and disseminating OH information and technical guidance. So basically everything goes through the Chief of UMed and they are the ones that disperse it. So all the commands get it. Process personnel medical records upon termination of employment. Develop a program providing for the periodic occupational health medical surveillance of both personnel and their working environments as required by reference C. At no cost to government employees, provide for occupationally related medical support, such as medical certification and surveillance examinations, emergency care, treatment for occupationally related injuries and illnesses, and required immunizations per reference C guidance. So immunizations is part of this, right? So any sort of prophylactic immunization, or anything like accidental needle stick, right? We have contractors who do not fall under TRICARE, who technically do not get medical care from us, but if my contractor in my lab has a dirty needle stick, I'm still running the rapid HIV on him. I'm still drawing his blood for Hep A, B, and C. I'm still doing all of these things, and it is at no cost to him, because it was an occupational exposure.
That first bullet point responsibility I've seen on the exam, that's the biggest one I would take out of for Chief of UMed.
Clearinghouse one?
Yes.
So the clearinghouse. Yeah, Chief of UMed disseminates OH information and technical guidance. Commander and NavSafeCom, they develop procedural guides and prepare supporting implementing directives. They develop and maintain reporting and recording procedures and systems to provide statistical information on illnesses and injuries that happen in the workplace. They collect reports and analyze data with special emphasis on cause and trend analysis. They promote the safety program. They maintain and make available a repository of mishap, injury, and illness data. So they do SecNav and CNO safety awards, which I've never seen on the test. They're the ones that do your lessons learned, is NavSafeCom. They're the ones that they come out with, they're like the safety talks, right? The monthly safety talks, and they have the lessons learned in there. That comes from NavSafeCom.
Aren't
What's
those also from like incident reports?
And well, exactly.
Let's
So
say-
what system are we using for incident reports, and where do you think they're pulling all of this data from? So not just like WES and OSHA and all that, right? But where else? Somebody just said it. Yes, it's ESAMS, right? Act as a clearinghouse for reviewing and disseminating SOH information. So now we have two. I don't know how I would decide which. If they're both on there, then you can't pick one, right? And you have to pick one, but clearinghouse of information, NavSafeCom, if that's on there, or if Chief of UMed's on there. And they provide assistance for safety matters. Naval Safety and Environmental Training Center through the NavSafeCom. So NavSafeCom comes above the Naval Safety and Environmental Training Center. So they do specialized SOH training and education to military and civilian personnel as required to support the overall program. They serve as the central source for delivery and dissemination of information. And then NETC is your training command. They're the inherent element in each primary and specified program element area. So NETC, in coordination with NavSafeCom and UMed, will incorporate the SOH educational materials, including applicable provisions of this manual, into the curricula of all appropriate military training courses. I literally taught the safety class for lab school students in phase 1. And the safety class came from the NETC structure from NavSafeCom. It's a whole training topic that has nothing really to do with lab, but we incorporate all the lab information into it for all of the safety program stuff that we're dealing with inside the lab. Naval Inspector General, it coordinates the inspection program aspects of the SOH program for Navy Echelon 2 commands. Naval Inspector General apprises higher authorities of program effectiveness as determined by the oversight program. Also maintains close liaison with the President, Board of Inspection and Survey, so pre-INSERV, and with cognizant OPNAV sponsors. So I would know this one, Naval Inspector General, because that sounds like a good first class test question to me. And they are the Echelon 2 commands. That sounds like the test question to me. And NETC is the one that does all the curricula for all of the training programs the Navy has on safety. So NETC is responsible to make sure that all of our training programs have the safety information embedded into the program. And that makes sense, right? They're the education and training people. Commands, units, and activities will issue the policy statement adopting and enhancing the policy established in Chapter 1. And the policy statement in there, like your CO should have something in there about like, I fully endorse and it is paramount. Safety is paramount and all that stuff, right? Organize staff and maintain a safety function or safety office. Assign SOH responsibilities to a qualified person. Ensure all personnel are fully aware of their obligations and personal responsibilities to the safety program. So commands, units, and activities, this is like your CO, OIC, department heads, division officers, stuff like that. They make sure that these things are happening. Establish SOH councils and committees. This is the CO role at appropriate command levels. Chair the council at a senior level, commanding officer, executive officer, etc., and ensure minutes are issued and maintained. Establish, maintain liaison between the local safety office and other Department of Defense commands, units, and activities for coordination of specialty functions such as medical, fire, security, etc., because they should be coming over and doing fire drills annually. We don't ever have them. We haven't had one in over 2 years. They should be coordinating all of these things, right? Ensure compliance with the mishap investigation reporting procedures. Ensure that all workplaces are inspected at least annually or more frequently based on the level of risk. At least annual inspections should be happening for safety. Annual safety inspections. Responsibility of CO. Establish a MP and hazard abatement, MPHA program. Establish procedures to protect all Navy personnel from coercion, discrimination, or reprisal for participation in the safety program. So if you put in a report into ESAMS, you can't get in trouble for it. Okay. Provide employees with access to their exposure and medical records. Develop procedures consistent with the Office of Personnel Management, Navy Personnel Command, and SMS guidance to measure and recognize superior and deficient safety performance. So safety awards, superior performance, right? Safety hazard reports, accident reports, things like that, all in ESAMS. Establish education and training programs, coordinate OM and IH field support with cognizant medical command, ensure compliance with applicable Navy regulations and federal statutes governing the control of classified and sensitive unclassified information, establish a comprehensive self-assessment program for the command. Annual safety inspections. So they have to review all the citations and findings from any sort of reports that are made, right? IH reports, OSHA reports. Ensure that personnel are aware of the formal procedures for processing written reports of unsafe or unhealthy working conditions. You all have a right to know how to report this stuff. Ensure support of field federal SOH councils and coordinate mutually beneficial accident prevention and safety programs with local communities to the maximum extent feasible and per applicable laws and regulations. So the CO absolutely talks to the local government all the time. usually about traffic. Designate appropriate officials to consult with representatives of labor organizations recognized with respect to the safety program. For shore commands only, I don't know that they're going to ask you a question about just shore commands, but I would know that bullet. The annual summary report of work-related injuries and illnesses for the preceding calendar year has to be available for all staff to be able to view it, and it must be certified by the CO or OIC, which means that they put their digital signature on the bottom. Or signed it. What signed it, right? They have to post a completed copy of the Occupational Safety and Health Protection Program online for you to be able to access it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Establish local agreements to clearly define the respective roles and responsibilities of the BUMED and non-BUMED IH when, where appropriate, due to the nature and complexity of local operations, non-medical commands, units, and activities, have established IH staffs to assist in implementation of the commands, units, and activity safety program. So local agreements have to be made between like medical and non-medical commands so that IH is hitting everyone annually. Individual civilian and military personnel commands, units, and activities can only achieve safe and healthful workplaces through the full participation and cooperation of all personnel. So all of us are responsible for these things. This is where probably a lot of your test questions are going to come from. The middle of the road in the weeds stuff is kind of like, maybe you'll get a one-off question, right? The big responsibility, CNO responsibility stuff, and then what is your responsibility as a sailor? These are the things I would focus on when you read. All right. I am not going to read that entire paragraph. What'd you say?
Everyone's a safety officer.
Everyone's a safety officer. Everyone has eyeballs and can tell when something is unsafe and has the ability to report it because we tell you how to report it. We give you the instruction. We give you ESAM's access. We force you to have it, right? So, report observed workplace hazards. That is your job, my job, his job back there. Immediately report to his or her supervisor. This is the test question that I've seen the most. Who do you report to if there is an injury or occupational illness or property damage resulting from a mishap or near mishap? Who do you report to?
Supervisor. Oh, yeah. Yep.
This is the test question that I have seen on every exam I've taken. I'm giving you one. It'll come back and see me after your test and tell me that it wasn't on there, because then I'll be like, oh, they figured it out. You don't have to ask it on every test, but it's probably going to be on your test. Your immediate supervisor. That's who you report it to. So everyone has a part to play in safety. Yeah, every command has a responsibility to make sure that they're taking care of their safety stuff. There we go. Any questions on that one?
PowerPoint is on this.
Okay, what's my next one?
Do you have another chapter still?
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay.
I have another whole freaking